Hey y'all, today we have the co-founder of Lonely Ghost Records on the show, the mononymous, anonymous, enigmatic John. Lonely Ghost Records is a self-described weird pop label. Their artists are scattered all over the world, and it's really interesting to hear how a label like that is run. They are artist-owned, they have a deep partnership with the artists on the label, and they kind of do a lot more than a typical DIY label does. We get into a mixtape featuring some Lonely Ghost artists, and then, of course, at the end, we play a game. We do the Ghost tier list. Stick around. That one was really fun. As always, if you want to support, you can do so at tapeclub.substack.com. All right, here is my conversation with the avatar of John. All right, John from Lonely Ghost Records, the Enigma. This is the first time I've interviewed a cartoon character. This is probably the most unique episode of the J-Card podcast ever. John, thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's talk about Lonely Ghost. You and your co-founder Shane started Lonely Ghost in 2018, I think. So tell me about how y'all met and what led you to start a little label like this.
Yeah, sure. So Shane and I actually met when we were about 8 or 9 years old. I think we were in third grade. He went to a different school than me, and we ended up like in this multi-school program, and we met then and became friends. And then as we got older, we ended up at the same junior high school, stayed friends through college. So like we've been lifelong friends. When we were younger, we were really into like punk music and hardcore music and just like going to a lot of shows and things like that. We both played instruments, but weren't necessarily in bands. So when, as we got into college and stuff, we started making some music here and there, doing whatever, which kind of turned into getting into DIY, which eventually turned into starting like a DIY label, because when we got into it, we started the label in 2018. I started floating around DIY probably like end of 2016. It was just like, it was very disjointed, and there was a lot of labels that would offer very small things like maybe tapes or just like smaller things. But I wanted to create a DIY label that would be able to do a little bit more, that was structured kind of in a manner that was like, I guess you could say socialistic in nature. The like original initial idea was that everybody on the label would like do a function for the label to help out. But that's like really hard to do because skill sets are so niche and specialized. When you're doing this stuff, like you don't realize like how deep you actually have to go for some of this stuff. And so Shane and I ended up taking on most of that, but we still have a label that's like very fair to artists. We don't own any of their music. They get a majority of, the splits for all the money and things like that. And it's just run out of Shane and I's pocket and whatever money we can raise or make more than raise, for the label. So really, it's just kind of like a passion project that keeps growing based on opportunities or who we work with.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the old saying, what's the quickest way to make a little bit of money in music? Start with a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
You're always going to be doing it as a labor of love, as a passion project. That's like exactly what we do in this podcast and everything. The Tape Club, it's all like just us having fun, basically. And,
yeah,
maybe forming a small community, but really like even that it's like 10 people, but still it's fun. It's whatever.
Right.
I wanted to ask, what is the division of labor like at the label, and who is in charge of what? I noticed when I was looking at the About section, I think you had some sort of PR title attached to you as well. Yeah. And I think Shane had maybe like some finance related one, but what's the division of labor like, and who's involved?
Yeah. So from like a very like formal structural level, it's Shane and I doing all of it basically. So Shane does the accounting, which is great because that was something I would never be able to do. So like something he was interested in doing, which was even better. So he does like inventory, merch orders, accounting. He like reviews contracts and is part of that process with people. So, a lot of the correspondence is related to any sort of money that's being transferred. Shane's usually going to be involved with that. He's involved with all the decision making, obviously. We do 50-50 on everything. We talk about it first. We both have to agree before we would move forward, even with bands we sign. It's the same for pretty much everything in that regard. I do more of like, I guess you could call it artist management, if you will. I do a lot of the PR, the marketing. I do most of the art for the label. And then I also manage the actual album releases. So like I structure everything, I set the deadlines, I get everybody on board, I correspond with the artists while I'm doing some of the PR stuff. So while I'm reaching out to different publications and stuff like that. So, and then in there somewhere in the middle, I would say Shane and I both do some of like the merch layout type of stuff. And then Shane and I both help with some of the touring or other extra things that come along with it that don't necessarily fall directly under a label, because labels historically, like, unless you're paying for the tour, you're not setting the tour up as a label, right? So, but you might facilitate or you might help or whatever. And so we've been just like, every time somebody needs something, we try to learn how to do it. And based on which one of our brains it seems to make more sense to, they take the lead and the other one tries to learn the process as we go. So like, I would argue that I can't really do Shane's jobs well, and Shane probably couldn't do a lot of my jobs well, but like we do at least know what each entails and kind of what to do if there was like a problem. And then outside of that, we do have a few more people that we work with pretty regularly. One is named Zach. He helps with a lot of our PR stuff, but he also helps with our blog. He writes for our blog. And then we also have Curtis, who does our playlist, Curtis Reeves. And those are the main ones. And then we also work with a very frequent collaborator, Daniel Zazani, with mixing and mastering, and Chris Crummett with a lot of mastering for our albums too. So these are people we generally kind of go to who, if an artist needs something, those are all people we can go to with, reliance, I guess.
It's awesome that you guys have this like team of folks and like this stable of collaborators, because I think a lot of times in the DIY world, it really is like one person doing everything, and sometimes that reflects and in the end product, because like, what do they say, jack of all trades, master of none, or whatever. Right. It's also tough to maintain a team, because at a certain point, like, people's time is valuable. So at a certain point, they're gonna be like, all right, dude, another favor, or whatever. So I'm glad that y'all have found a way to make that work. And I also want to say, it seems like artists can lean on you for a variety of things. Like when you partner with them, you're not just maybe posting their shit on Bandcamp and doing a email blast, or just sending them some tapes for them to figure out what to do with. Tell me a little bit about how involved you guys are in various, phases, I guess, of the album rollout. How involved do you get with the artists?
As far as the actual album rollout goes, I would say I take the lead depending on how much they have in regards to like goals, marketing ideas. I mean, before we come into, and by marketing ideas, we're a DIY label. So I'm not talking like Sony marketing ideas, let's go buy a billboard. I'm talking like somebody has a clever idea for social media. They're making whatever they're going to make to try to get people's attention, however they want to frame a release, so that like people might see it, or so that people will understand like how they should interpret this or digest it, or the touchstones that maybe they could understand it through, right? Like a band like Cheem is one I think of, where it's like they're kind of like talking about being like a new metal boy band and doing like these really goofy like TMZ videos, and like all of that kind of stuff we do at the beginning. So we try to have a lot of lead time. And then from there, I set the deadlines and I kind of manage people to keep them on that. I'm the point person, and I kind of, everything goes through me. The good thing about it is like everybody, I think the reason why the teams kind of stay together is because we're all doing it out of like passion more than anything. So like people are doing things they kind of want to be doing anyways, and maybe in a capacity that isn't like, I would never necessarily want this to be like my real life job. Like, I don't know that I would want to have to like pay my rent on this. It's fun when I know I don't have to, because like I can go support a band that it's like, I like this band. I think they have potential. Maybe other people disagree with me, but I can go and try it out and see what happens. And, like, I don't know that I could do that without kind of that structure in place. So like we do offer though everything that any label would offer you. Like we do offer all the same things. It's just that the pitch that I generally give people is like, if you're looking for a lot of money being thrown at you, if you're looking for a big loan, which is a big risk always, you're probably going to have ownership. Somebody else is going to have ownership at that point. You're going to be on the hook to pay that back, which means you're probably never going to see a dime out of anything they give you on the back end or whatever, right? Like, depending on what it is you want to accomplish, you have to ask yourself, why am I involving another person in this process? So like the bigger the money, the more there's going to be ownership. I don't want to own your stuff, which means that our offering is more our time, our structure, our know-how, like finding people who are passionate, DIY network. So like I can't like necessarily pay $50,000 to release your album, but I do have time and some know-how that I can make a lot of the things that would help add up to the cost of, let's say, some of those bigger albums. I can eliminate all of those costs for you out of the gates. Like you're going to pay for PR. We pay for PR. So like, because it's in-house and it's relatively cheap, like $10,000 of your recoupable cost to your label no longer exist. And honestly, we've been in every publication that anybody has, and we haven't done it for $5,000 a clip or $10,000 or $30,000 if you're on like one of the bigger ones or whatever. And so like, I think that's kind of the trade-off in general for us is like, we offer everything at scale, right? So it's more organic, it's more grassroots, it's more sink or swim. People fuck with it or they don't.
Yeah, and that's a great way to break it down for those people who aren't aware. I think a lot of people realize that when you sign with a label, it is a loan. I think that is now pretty common knowledge. But a lot of people don't realize just how important like the rest of it is, like PR and stuff. I mean, those write-ups, those happen because of basically good PR connections. And a lot of these PR companies cost a lot of fucking money. Like if you're a small artist, if you're lucky enough to know someone who does PR and is down to give you a friend rate or do it for you for free, that's how you'll get write-ups. You know, there's so much noise. You're not going to break through. No, I mean, this is maybe pretty nihilistic of me, but you're not going to really break through unless like someone puts your stuff in the right person's ears.
That's correct. It's not like I tell people all the time, like as bad as it sounds, is like it's less about talent and more just about like luck, opportunity. And like a lot of that comes from the idea of like people are like, well, you have to get lucky, but like that's why bands have to be around for like 5 or 10 years before they really see that payoff. And it's because like you have to learn like what's my niche, what's my audience, how do I show people. And like the farther off the beaten path it is, like Lonely Ghost, we put out some like crazy shit. And like that's harder to get people to convince somebody to listen to something where it's like, it's a mix of like new metal and pop punk and like then sometimes, but they have like an R&B kind of style singing. And then there's a lot of like how do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
Or like, Hey, I Love You. And like fifth wave emo kind of helped us sell stuff. Cause like we weren't really fifth wave, but like we could fit into a lot of that or whatever. But like, you know, a lot of what you're doing is in fact building up the know-how and understanding and more importantly, the connections. So like, that's why like your friend's band who nobody ever really, it never went anywhere. They start a new band and it blows up in a year and everybody's like, oh, that's an industry plant. No, it's not. That's a person who made a bunch of friends over the past 10 years. And with their new project, a bunch of people liked it, or they were willing to like, because it's new, it's like, hey, let's try to hype this and the hype works or whatever, you know? And like, that's what people don't understand is this like industry, no matter how big the scale is, still comes down to you still have to be a part of a bigger thing. If you're trying to do it for yourself, it's never going to work. You have to offer something to people beyond I make good music. There's a million people who make better music than you who will never be heard.
Right. And just to like clarify, you know, it's not going to work. What that is if you are aiming to pop, that's never going to happen. If you're making music for yourself, just for yourself, and you're happy to release it, then you've already succeeded.
And with that, I'm not saying go sign to a label either. I'm saying even with self-releasing, but like it always, the myth that somebody blows up on their own or that success comes from like bootstraps and a grind set, like the grind set's kind of true. You have to be working at it. And the more you work at it, the more likely it is you find opportunities or meet somebody or whatever. But like really a lot of it is that you like participated, you like showed up somewhere and you were at the same place as other people and you maybe were nice to them, or you have similar interests, or you let them borrow your gear. But like, it's about like, you have to put yourself out there. You have to remember that like your success is actually not only yours. So you have to, when you get out there, it's about bringing those other people in and supporting their success as well. The more you support other people, the more they're willing to like do you a favor too. And I think that like, you know, again, like I think no matter what scale that's at, like that's basically, I guess, the definition of a community, especially in 2025, unfortunately. But like, you know, you do get something out of that. Like watching your friends' music, like people find it is really a great feeling as much, you know, like I know everybody wants it to be them, but it's also really cool to just like be a part of a community where you see that stuff happening. And like, you know, you learn a lot from people too. And like, it's just music is not as hard as it seems in a lot of ways, though it's changed a lot over the past, even since we started it's been about 8 years. I mean, then there was like a very strict model of like, do this EP, a couple of singles or a split, talk to a label, sign, debut LP, you get a good publicist, you end up with your Pitchfork review, a Stereo Gum review, you go on a tour with a band, and now you're a thing. You can't do that anymore. There's a million people who understand that formula, and nobody's reading publications. Everybody's on TikTok, but that's all disposable. So like, okay, your song has 5 million streams on it, and now nobody knows who you are still. Like, it's all really going to come back down to the stronger the foundation, the more that you organically build something, the more that it comes out still. Like, that is the simple part. Like, put the time in, meet people who like your shit, who make similar music, be a part of something where you can find other people who like that sound, and, you know, just like be a person, I guess. Like, get out there and remember the human part.
Yeah. And I mean, what I hear a lot is that it's pretty popular now, I guess, but the theory of 1,000 real fans or whatever, where it's like, if you have 1,000 real fans, there's a way to like just make that your entire career, and it'll work because of how connected everyone is. You could also, like you said, get 5 million streams on something, but no one will know who the fuck you are, and they'll only listen to like 5 seconds of one of your songs, and then that's gone forever. I remember I was online somewhere, someone was posting a question. They were like, I currently have, I think I brought this up on the show before. They were like, I currently have like 10,000 monthly listeners. How can I get to 50? And I was just like 50,000. And I was just like, just ask yourself though, why do you want to get to 50,000? Like, because if you don't know why you're setting these goals, then they're just arbitrary, and they're not going to actually bring any satisfaction. If it's a vanity metric, that's cool too, but just be honest with yourself.
Yeah. Just go bot it. You know what I mean? Just go bot it if you just want to look like you have 50K or whatever. But like, you know, in the grander scheme of things, I think that the only way you can find real satisfaction from this is to like, one, be genuine. You have to be authentic. Like, that's the stuff that like people like, is stuff that like someone genuinely is trying to make something they like themselves, like something they care about. Like, trying to make something popular, usually you can kind of hear through that. So that's a part of it. But the other thing is just like, you know, like you said, like, why are you doing this? I think like if you actually want to know how to like get a bigger fandom, it's to like put care into your work. Like, with the project that I'm working on with my friend Nelson, like, I do all of the art for it. We create this like nostalgic media. I made a VHS tape with a full like reel of our album with the lyrics on it. We made a replica Sega Genesis cartridge for our first album that's like NFC tagged, and it has like all the songs and like, you know, an instruction manual. And it's like, that got people's attention when we did that because it was cool. And it was like something that people aren't doing. So like, in my opinion, like, you know, again, it's like, don't worry about being the band that everybody's seen or the musician that everybody's seen. Like, go do something you think is cool. And if it's something that you like genuinely believe in and put care into it, I think in the world of AI, making shit by hand is even cooler now. Like, go do it. Like, DIY, could never be more back than right now.
It's true. So. It's true. Okay, so that is kind of a good segue into this other question I had. On your About page, like most labels, I noticed you guys are open to receiving demos. I feel like, you know, just going from my personal journey, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was very keen on sending my demos out to label after label after label, trying to get on a label. I thought it would be so cool. Now when I have something, I'll just go to like one of my handful of friends, really just one person, and go, hey, do you want to put this out? But how often are y'all receiving demos? Is it more now? Has it trended downwards? Or, yeah, tell me a bit about the demo.
Way up, way up. I got more pitches in the past month than we did when we put out like Internet Breath by Hey I Love You, which is the first thing that made people even aware of our label probably. And like, and that was like a lot. Like, we were getting several a day, and like, we get a lot of pitches right now, like more than I can probably even listen to, unfortunately. Like, I don't know where they're coming from to some degree. It's like, I don't know who, like, how they're like, it used to be people in our orbit. So it'd be like, oh, I recognize that's a person from Twitter, or this is a person from Instagram or whatever. And now it's like, I don't know, it's out there further. And a lot of the stuff that we're getting is like excellent. But unfortunately, you know, like, if you're not into DIY lore, like, the labels historically notoriously fold, and basically it's like a rug pull almost. Like it's similar to like a crypto scam. They come in, they're going to make all these vinyl, everybody buys all this shit, the vinyl never exists, and the label disappears. That happened a lot recently again, where just like things have happened, labels have folded, a lot of the resources are gone. And so like, people don't want to do it right. We do. I can't sign everybody that is good, and I can't sign everybody just because they're good or whatever. So it's like, it's trying to know who our target audience is and where we're trying to go. We do try to function more as a music collective. Like we do a lot of collaborations with each other. We help each other out. We have graphic artists, audio engineers, like all kinds of people or all kinds of skill sets, outside of the musicians as well. So it's like, we've been getting a lot of that. We've been seeing a lot of it. I used to encourage people to go start their own labels. I don't think they should do that anymore because of like what you said, one person tries to do it or two people who can't really handle it. And it does the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish. But like DIY is back. I think like now what I'm encouraging people to do is like, ask yourself, like, why do you want a label involved? You can put your own music on the internet. You can make your own promotional materials. Like you can pitch your own music to most publications and to be honest, like you can get outside of like a few publications, it doesn't get you streams or notoriety anyway. It's just more of a resume builder. Like, why do you want somebody involved with this? Like, in my opinion, DIY is more back in that like people need to go put out their own music, control your own shit, learn the process, embrace the process and love it. Because like, honestly, there's a lot of like personal growth that comes from the struggle of like having to improve things to a point where people recognize what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that musical process, like, if you make something and participate for a while and you make something like really good, I do think like eventually people notice. So, DIY is back. Don't go sign to a label probably, but learn how to put out your own music.
So that is sort of a good segue here into my last question. And you've basically alluded to this throughout, but I'll give you this question so you can put it in a nutshell. What value do you think labels bring to artists in the year of our Lord 2026?
So that's a tough question because like so in my opinion, you have money, you have time, and you have like know-how, right? And so like the DIY approach would be like you have the know-how and the time, or you create the know-how with the time, and then you don't need the money so much. Labels, bigger labels are good for money. Obviously, like if you're a band that's just like, I need to be famous, like you're probably not going to be taking the DIY route for very long because that is a slow build no matter what for the most part. Again, unless it's like you've all been in other bands, everybody knew them, they like them, you started a new band, everybody already knows it, and you blow up. Like that's different. But, the DIY route, that can be harder. So like labels have money. But labels also have really strict contracts and shitty deals and things like that are a trade-off. The bigger the label, the worse the deal generally. I would say like DIY labels and smaller labels with contracts, with structure, like those more independent labels, let's call them, not like DIY, let's say independent. With those, I think, again, they can offer money and maybe a decent contract. The other thing that like some of those labels can offer is infrastructure. Like they do have the networks of people. They have people on payroll. They have the PR person that they know who to call, who has every name in the book or whatever. Like, those are things they can offer. I guess it depends on what you're trying to accomplish with that. Like if you're trying to be a pop star, you're probably going to navigate the label market or the label system, but like, I think like bands, like they don't offer as much. Like a label like ours offers more of the DIY approach, which is less money. We give you smaller loans incrementally and, we do things over time, or like we put in our know-how and our time. And like ultimately, I think some labels can offer that as well, where they do have some know-how, they do have some time, and they're willing to offer you something okay. Anything above 50% cuts is shit. So like nobody should ever do that. If they're offering to own your music, you better be getting a fucking bag, like straight up front, because you're never going to see a dime off the back end. So like those are things where like, understand Taylor Swift re-recorded her fucking album. She couldn't escape it, right? Like you have to know what you're getting into. And ultimately, like, I would argue that labels have a lot to offer you if you understand the actual trade and deal that you're making, and you truly and clearly understand the goals you want to achieve. Like, if you want the label system and you want that level of whatever, you already kind of know what you're getting into. It's going to be fucked up. They're going to, rip you off or whatever. So it's kind of like, to what degree do you feel you're prepared to manage it? And if that's what you want, I guess that's what you want. I would never want to go that route because it's everybody thinks they're the person who's going to be able to like use that to their advantage. And that's like, it's like going to the casino and thinking you're going to win on the slots. Like everybody thinks it. And the reason why that doesn't happen for every like huge artist you've seen, think of the thousands you've heard on the radio that you can't remember the name of. Like the label system eats people up, spits them out with a contract that says you can't do shit after this, by the way. You don't own your own name sometimes, so it's like, it's about what you think you're getting out of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I always think of when it comes to major labels and major artists is how many of them we know because of one song that they made one time on one album somewhere, and they've tried to keep going, but it's basically like, no, just play that one song that we know from you from 35 or 40 years ago, please, and then shut the fuck up. It sort of makes you think like, is that what you want? Do you want to just be getting on stage and doing the like dance monkey dance for me like all your life? I don't know. It's weird. And yeah, the music industry is a very, very strange place. The DIY part of it's also strange, but in like a cozy way,
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I guess on the other side of it is I would say like asking the question, what does the label offer me? Again, if you can release your own music, if you can even talk to friends who know how to, pitch music, or you have people that, some hype around you might not even need that. Play some live shows, connect some people. Eventually you'll meet people who have the know-how that you need. And like, if you're willing to take the time and you're willing to put in some, like the effort or learn some things and like, be social with people, I guess. But like, I don't know that you need a label, especially because like controlling your own thing, like you make as much money doing your own stuff sometimes as you can off a label having 10 times the amount of listeners or whatever. So it's like, like I own my own label and I get to make weird merch that really doesn't make me money or anything. And I get to have like this weird passion project or whatever. And like, I'm on my own label. I'm not on somebody else's for a reason. I would not want that. So
yeah, and the key that I always say is just like, establish what success means to you.
Yes.
That's it. Because if you don't know when you're going to be satisfied, you're never going to be satisfied. That's it.
Yes. That's good. That's really good advice, honestly.
John, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into your mixtape. A lot of very insightful stuff there. And, I think we could really dive deep into industry stuff, but that's not what the show is. So we're going to get into the mixtape, and then maybe we'll have you back some other time and we can go real deep on like contracts and stuff. That could be fun. Let's take a quick break. All right, we're back with the mixtape, and John, I think this is like a Lonely Ghost focused mixtape, right? Tell me about why you picked these songs in a nutshell. Give me like the big overview before we get into it.
Yeah, so these are 6 songs from albums we released this year. A lot of these artists put out their first album with us this year: May Leets, Ultra Deluxe, and Johnny Football Hero, which is also very cool. We've been working with Hodera, the Marion Old Phone, for a while, and they're just, they just put out some really good stuff. So I picked them because like we'll get into each song, I'm assuming, so I'll wait. But like they kind of stick out. I'll explain why they stick out to me this year for sure. But these are all albums that we put out, and I just thought they were cool.
Amazing. And then when you say this year, of course, listeners, 2025, I know that Lonely Ghost is a prolific label, but they did not put out 6 releases in 3 weeks of the year. Don't get it twisted. So let's start with the song by May Leets called Kill Yourself. Tell me a bit about this one. Why'd you pick this one?
So May Leets reached out to us because one of the aforementioned DIY labels did a rug pull on her, and she wanted to stay kind of DIY and got in touch with us, and originally was talking about putting out a tape, but then was like, I actually have this album. Would you be interested in putting it out? And we heard it. And obviously this is the first song I heard by her, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And so, we went from there. This album turned into a really fun adventure. We actually created a full fake web page for this album that has like fake ads for like face skin and stuff, like very strange, that I got to make for her with one of her music videos. And I just think she brings like a really interesting kind of like heavy pop sound to the label. I feel like in a lot of ways, like our label is kind of a heavy pop or alternative pop. I've been calling it weird pop sort of label. There's a lot of pop influences and everything that we bring to the table. And I think she's a great example of kind of a really nice mix of like pop punk, actual pop music. She has like a country pop punk song that's like really cool, and just like, she brings in a lot of different sounds. Also, it's kind of a neat little tidbit about her is that her fiance is Laura Less from 100 Gex, actually. So,
oh, wow.
So yeah, her production, I'm a huge fan of 100 Gex, and I definitely felt that there was some spiritual similarities there, and I think you can kind of hear it in the music as well.
100%. I heard that influence as well, and I was gonna say it, like, generally, I think you guys put out a decent amount of like hyper pop or hyper pop adjacent things, which is pretty cool.
I think so. Like, yes, some of it is, but I also think like hyperpop got so broad that like a lot of what people were doing was actually like, it wasn't really borrowing from hyperpop, but because there's like really fast synth in like a rock song, you know what I mean? Like, so yes and no. Some of them would say yes, others might argue no. Just, I'm throwing it out there for their defense.
Sure. It's almost like genres themselves are fucking stupid to begin with, but like it's almost like indie rock. It's so big that it actually doesn't mean anything. It means everything. I saw a TikTok the other day where someone was like, indie rock, like if you make indie rock, it sucks. Like indie rock sucks. I don't know what they were saying, but I had to turn it off because I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, that's such a broad term. That's just like being like, I don't know. It's like saying food sucks. You're like, what food sucks? Okay, let me ask one thing, because I do want to get to the song, but I want to know more about this website. Tell me how that materialized and what exactly was it? That's so cool that you guys went and did some sort of promo that wasn't just like a basic ass email blast, Oh
my gosh, what was the website? Let me see. So the website is for the album, but it is very much like kind of demented. It's just
how did the concept come up? Like, whose idea was it to go, hey, what if we made like a fake website instead of just like making a music video or whatever?
I want to say that we did it kind of together. She wanted to do something related to it, and I was like, I feel like I could make like a website. And so then I just came up with all of like this weird stuff on this website. Like, very strange. I'm trying to see if I could find it because it's like really out there, but like it features her music video called Track 9, which is actually like why we made it, basically. And then it was just a way to promote the album, I guess. It was just very strange. I am fucking bad at golf. There it is.
That's the name of the website. I am fucking bad at golf.com.
Yeah, you can find it, and it's like really, it's still up. It's strange. You can see all my weird fake ads. This cat got swag, sandwich lamp, my wife left me, this motherfucker looks like Tobey Maguire. Lots of fun stuff.
This sounds amazing. I mean, that's in itself just really cool to take a path less taken, you know what I mean? Because sometimes the playbook is very old hat. It's like, let's make some reels, let's make some TikToks, we'll make a music video, and then we'll make like a behind the scenes of me pretending like that I'm playing the song and telling you about what it meant to me or something like that. It's cool to see something a little different,
Thanks. Yeah.
Let's listen to a little bit of Kill Yourself by May Leeds.
So what you want me to say when you feel ashamed? I didn't put you on I never asked you for more. Are you proud?
Next up, Housed in the Arctic by Ultra Deluxe. So tell me a bit about Ultra Deluxe.
So Ultra Deluxe is a very cool leftist band from New York City. They make, what do they call it? Like, sometimes they call themselves cybergrind, which is a little bit more like probably a known genre, but they call themselves like sci-fi emo and all kinds of stuff. And basically Ultra Deluxe is a little bit of, back when we first started Lonely Ghost, we used to call things post-genre, like as a label, which I think is accurate, but just like not very fun. But I would argue that in a lot of ways, like they are sort of a post-genre band. They definitely lean into 2000s post-hardcore and punk, and they bring in a lot of really cool synths and chiptune. We became aware of each other a while ago because we both brought in a lot of synth and like different rock elements and stuff. And they have like really cool politics. Their albums are all about just like, kind of this like liberation army that's fighting for its freedom, and they promote like, organizations locally and how to organize, and, they just do a lot to advocate for good causes.
Hell
as
yeah,
well
that's
with your
what's up.
music, which is sick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. About the genre conversation. So, what is so interesting to me about genres is, I just said like fuck genres. I think they're annoying, and in a sense they are. But part of that is I'm just jealous when people come up with like a micro genre that you can tell exactly what it is just from hearing the word. You know what I mean? I'm very
Yeah.
bad at it. I can't do it. To me, I'm just like, I don't know. It's like rock with some jazz in it, I guess, or something like that. I just use my vocabulary to describe genres is very, very small. And then there's people out there who like come up with the most specific descriptor. And I'm just like, oh, damn,
Yeah.
I immediately know what you're talking about. And that's the power of a good genre.
Yeah, and Ultra Deluxe is a band that you kind of have to hear to understand because like the closest comparison I have to them is Coheed and Cambria. But like album, Good Morning Apollo and Good Morning, what is it? Morning Star Apollo or whatever. I don't know. But I love that album. 4 and probably like 4 and 5 is what it's most similar to, those two albums. I'm in my mid 30s, so those were touchstones for me when I was in high school. The minute I heard this band, I was like, oh, I love this. And it kind of reminds me of them, but like much heavier and borrowing more from like punk than like maybe like 80s or 80s like metal, maybe. I don't know what you'd call that, but yeah, very cool sounding.
Well, let's listen to a little bit of it. Here is Housed in the Arctic by Ultra Deluxe. Next up, a song by Hodera called Future Stranger with a very special feature on it. Tell me a bit about what's going on here.
Yeah, so Hodera is a band that's been around for a while. They actually made waves like a decade ago. Like, believe it or not, like a lot of like really big indie rock bands were like fans of Hodera, like people like Jay Brecky and stuff like that. So it's kind of sick. But like we came about, Hodera, at least working with them later into like their careers. So at this point, they have a lot of history behind them and they met a lot of people. And they ended up working with the singer of the Counting Crows on this song. He actually did 2 features for them. This one and a song called Love and Death from their most recent album. They also got a feature from the guitarist of Wilco. They also got a feature from the singer of Microwave. Like, they did. And I was like, how did you do this? And Matt's stories always start the same. He's like, yeah, I was like, what's it called? Bustling, is that what it's called? Busking. I was like busking for some like food for the band when we were touring in Chicago, and I like ran into Nels Klein, and then he was like, I opened the show for the Counting Crows, and I talked to Adam, and I waited 10 years almost, and I finally hit them up, his manager, and they ended up like, he said yes, they sent him the song. He was like, the manager put him in touch. He said yes, he remembered them, and like he offered to let them film a live set in his penthouse apartment in New York City, which I don't remember, like, I don't have those out and I don't possess those videos. So I'm assuming it didn't happen, but I don't know why. But like, it's like Matt, like, just meets like everybody and like makes that connection. And he's also just like, I mean, his music is incredible. Hodera it's a band, but like Matt's kind of like the primary songwriter. And just like, every album they put out, it's a little bit different vibe, but like I would call them like kind of like alt country, some emo in there, some folk, and it's just like these really impactful. He's just like a great songwriter, great lyricist. And so like, I'm not surprised that people want to work with him either.
Well, I'll say shout out to Matt for shooting your shot, because you have to do that, especially in creative industries. Like, you just have to ask or you're not going to get it. You know what I mean? And that goes for everything. Even if you're on the more technical end of a creative industry, say you're just an audio engineer or like a video editor or something, you have to reach out to your contacts and remind them that you're there. Otherwise, they're not going to know, So if you don't ask, you don't receive.
Yeah. And honestly, even with the label, it was like that. Like, I reached out to other label owners. Jeff, who owns Run for Cover Records, like literally did a phone call with us and like met with us and helped us out just because we asked, not because like we were offering him anything or, there's a lot of people, believe it or not, as nasty as this industry is, there's also like a lot of like genuinely very nice and cool people. It is a community of artists still. Like, there's a lot of people who just want to like, do fun shit with people or like see other people flourish. So
yeah, and then as such a community of artists, there are those forgetful people, there are the disorganized people, there are a ton of other people who, it's not malice. Never attribute to malice what can be attributed to like being disorganized or something like that, you know? Not
never be
everyone's out
afraid.
to get you.
Never be afraid, because again, like, you know, so a lot of people say yes, like with Hodera. So
Yep, exactly. Well, let's listen to a little bit of this song. It's called Future Stranger. It features Adam Duritz, and it is by Hodera. Here it is.
Circle in the dream, and I can see how this will end, how it began.
Next up, The Struggler by Johnny Football Hero. I know Johnny Football is this guy, Johnny Manziel was his name, but not
Yeah.
Johnny Football Hero. Tell me about Johnny Football Hero.
So Johnny Football Hero is a progressive emo band from Philadelphia. I would say the closest comparison I could probably give them is The Fall of Troy. I based on what you heard, you're shaking your head. Yes, I feel like that's at least a touchstone that feels right. They also have some like swancore, and like the album itself is more, I kind of consider almost like a really interesting, almost like tour of emo. They have like Midwestern emo breaks and like riffs in their songs, and then all of a sudden they just like beat you into the ground with like the heaviest breakdowns. It's like very insane album, very riffy. You know, they're a true like progressive metal, progressive emo band. Like they have the riffs, they have the chops.
How did you get in touch with Johnny Football Hero? How did you find out about them? Was this like they sent you a demo, or was it just through the grapevine?
I think every single artist on this list pitched to us.
Wow, that's actually really surprising.
Yeah, I used to go and chase people down, but I don't anymore. A lot of times we've been around DIY for 8 years, and like when you don't have a reputation for being a piece of shit after 8 years, I think for the most part, like people don't want to end up in that bigger ecosystem of like a couple of these bands came from bigger labels and were like, we got fucked. And that's why they're working with us now. So like, and they have control over their music and they can do whatever they want. And that's what they wanted. And so, you know, yeah, a lot of them did. And Johnny Football Hero did too. However, I was a huge fan of them before that happened. So when they did that, I already was like, yes. I can't believe they pitched to us. Yes. So
that's awesome. That must be a
yeah.
great feeling to see that email, you know, or that text.
Honestly, it's been a few times where like all the bands on this label, like I love their music, and a lot of them, I mean, like I supported them ahead of time. Like we knew each other to some degree of like casually, not like friends, but like, you know, in passing. And so like maybe that's a part of it, but like it was really like, it's always like a huge honor when you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I might be able to work with them. And Johnny Football Hero was one of them. They're just like one of those bands that like the album should have been bigger, but like the release did not go well. Basically, they were running behind on everything. They had a lot of hiccups and it got delayed. The album wasn't done on the release date. So we had to push it back a week just to get it published, to get it out as soon as possible, which we should have delayed it probably. But like, it's so good. And I hope people hear it, because like the first EP they put out got them in Pitchfork. And this is like a huge step up, and nobody really knew it came out because it was just like kind of, again, we didn't hit the deadlines. We weren't ready for stuff that we needed because the band was just, and they'll tell you that they were like running behind, but it's such a good album. And I think it has, no matter when somebody hears this, you could hear this in 10 years from now and you'll still be something I think you would pick up and want to spend time with. It doesn't have like an expiration date on it. It just like, go check it out. Like, I think it has legs if it wants to. I just need people to hear it.
Hell yeah. Well, let's listen to a little bit of it right now. Here's The Struggler by Johnny Football Hero. Next up, we've got No Reply by The Merrier featuring Kixie. So tell me a bit about The Merrier.
Yeah, so The Merrier is a solo project by a guy named Jake Stevens from Cleveland, but he collaborates with other people on all of his songs. So even though The Merrier is Jake, he always co-releases the songs. I've been featured on 3 of his songs, I think. He's worked with the singer of Bitch Seat. Kixie is an up and coming like band, like kind of indie rock pop sort of band, and like she's on this song. Her band is like, he works with different people all the time. He works with rappers, all kinds of different genres, and he just tries to get people out of their element, making these different kinds of songs. He calls his music dreamo, or digipop. I think both of those are very accurate terms. His one of his biggest musical influences, or 2 of his biggest musical influences, are The Cure and the Minecraft soundtrack. And
I
then
love that.
wait,
I
here's
love
the third
that.
one, Adventure Time. So
Of course, of course.
like he's like, and like Jake is incredibly talented. He plays the bass and the guitar on most of the songs. He was the bass player for I think the first Sonderbombs album also. And he's just like really, he's an audio engineer and he runs like sound at like bigger venues in Cleveland. And this is what he does in his spare time. Bands come through and, you know, he's just like a really, really nice guy. He's really, really talented. It's fun to work with. And he just makes music that's like really catchy and really bright and like live. It's like, I've never heard anybody else sound like this. And it's just like so easy to like get lost in.
Can I ask, I feel like this is something I should know, but you know, viewers and listeners, they already know I don't really do great research. The Merrier, based in Cleveland, right? You mentioned, I think, Ultra Deluxe based in New York. You mentioned Johnny Football Hero based in Philly. Do y'all have like a city that is, you'd consider home base where like a lot of your artists come from, or is it really scattered?
No, I would say like, it's pretty scattered. So like, we're in Columbus. So I recorded Super Destroyer and I'm in Nelson Comes to Visit. So like that's two of our acts. That's Columbus. But Nelson is in Cleveland. And he records his Leave Nelson Be also. And then Jake is in Cleveland. And then Slim Fit.
Can I say Cleveland? Underrated. A lot of people hate on Cleveland. Cleveland is fucking cool.
Especially music.
Columbus, I've never been, but I know they got the Columbus Crew, one of the great American soccer teams, you know, shout out Columbus Crew. But that's really all I know about Columbus, I guess.
Well, we got Dirty Dungarees, which is one of the coolest DIY venues in the country. It's a laundromat. So, and a bar and a concert venue all in the same space. Like you could literally like wash your clothes while you watch a band. It's pretty crazy.
That type of stuff is really cool. And that's why I think like, I don't know what to call them. Like, I'm going to call them like third tier cities or whatever. I don't fucking know. I'm not trying to be mean. I live in Richmond, so I'd say it's like, you know, maybe even smaller than that. But I think that's what's really cool about those cities is that there is an opportunity to do this kind of stuff. Like all love to New York. New York is an amazing, amazing city, best city in the US in my opinion. But like, it's hard to do shit there because you have to survive and live, and that's number one. And after that, maybe you can, you know, get the energy up to do something. In Columbus, like you said, you guys can make this space that you can use, and it's awesome.
And to go back to your question, we have bands in like all over the country. I kind of consider us an internet label. This is kind of, I'm not going to show you all of it, but like, this is kind of our home base. It's literally a music studio I'm in right now, but it's also kind of an office for Lonely Ghost, our headquarters. But like outside of that, like we're all over the country. I mean, you know, we kind of, people link up. It's very, like I said, music collective in a lot of ways.
It's cool. I like it. Let's listen to No Reply by The Merrier featuring Kixie. Finally, the closer, I Talk in Emojis by Old Phone. Any reason for putting this one as the closer, or was it just kind of, it fell that way?
I actually put them in order of release, more or less, or initial intended release. And I Talk in Emojis. This is just probably my favorite song on that album. That riff in the middle when it just like starts to break down is like so sick. Gregory's one of my best friends, Gregory, who records his Old Phone. And I just think like they're making like really unique sounding, heavy like scrams and emo music with like a lot of other stuff going on. And I don't know, I love this song. It feels like a good closer.
Hell yeah. And how did you discover Old Phone? You mentioned Gregory, but is this a longtime friend, or how did you discover this act?
So we met through DIY because Gregory used to run a small tape label called Solidarity Club. And they made music under a different name, and we kind of would swap music back and forth and talk label stuff or whatever, and we became friends. And then they wanted to kind of be done with the tape label stuff. And they were just looking for somebody to help them release music. And obviously we were close. They're like, would you do it? No, of course. So, you know, that was it. But yeah,
how many of the people involved, this isn't really related to Old Phone, but how many of the folks involved in the label, be they artists, be they whatever, have been around for a minute and are in like their, let's say, mid 30s or early 30s or even into their 40s? Like, Do you guys, are y'all kind of,
We don't have anybody in their 40s yet, I don't think. Curtis is in his 40s who helps us out, but I don't think any of the artists are.
do you have a lot of artists who are like young people? I sound like a fucking boomer, but do you have artists who are like young people who want to get involved, or is it sort of like there's an age where, you know, maybe it's not, DIY is not as important?
I would say it's a mix. So like it kind of ebbs and flows. It used to be about 50-50. Obviously, like, Hey, I Love You, Caleb signed with us when he was like 19. But that was in 2021. So he's like 23 now, which is still pretty young. I mean, that band's pretty young. They're in their like early to mid 20s, all of them. Nelson and I are in our mid 30s. Arise Sir is in like early 20s, though he hasn't released anything in a while. He might. Nano's in his early 20s.
Because the reason I ask is just because it makes me, I always wonder, like, you know, like we make cassettes and stuff, right? Like, is there any interest in it from like a younger, you know, generational perspective?
So here's if you want to know the real trick, this is the real secret to the sauce. The generation where they no longer had ubiquitous access to that thing, that's going to be their nostalgia push. So for us, it was cassettes because we kind of were on the tail end of it where we remember them, but we didn't really have access like that. It was kind of like, then after us came CDs and now MP3 players.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
What's happening straight up. Like that's the wave. And like bootleg CDs and MP3 players are the wave. Don't actually take the MP3 player part is whatever.
I was going to say,
I'm working on that already. So nobody should.
I was going to say, you're a step ahead of me. I was going to say you should get a preload an MP3 player with all of the Lonely.
Nelson Comes to Visit 3. That's our merch. So yeah, like, but
look here, take it this way. This is the one silver lining of this. This is like 55 minutes into this thing. So we're going to gloss over it. No one heard it. Don't worry. No one heard it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the wave, I think. Like, that's kind of how you can calculate that. Like, if you want to know what's going to be cool, like, look at what, like, the generation who's kind of coming into that, like, high school to college years, whatever they didn't have access to, that's what they're probably going to be interested in. Now, I don't know, like, I genuinely think eventually, like, old cell phones are going to be the next wave for a while. But, like, and it kind of, some of that's coming back for different reasons, but I think, like, it'll be bigger. But I don't know what comes necessarily after that. So, yeah.
I remember, in my early 20s, I had a phase where I wanted to get a beeper. I didn't.
Yeah, because they did seem cool. Like,
yeah, they seemed cool. Yeah. It's like, oh, someone's beeping me. 1 second, I got to go find a phone to call them or whatever. I don't know. It's. I'm glad I didn't do it. I actually have a friend who sent out a mass text the other day that they were starting in the new year switching to only a flip phone, and you can only call them or something like that, and or email them. And I was like, noble pursuit, but like, I have a feeling that it's going to get real old real quick. But you know, who am I to tell them how to live their life? Let's listen to a little bit of "I Talk in Emojis" by Old Phone. All right, so there it was. That's your playlist. You had 6 great tunes on there, all from Lonely Ghost 2025 releases. Any honorable mentions you want to throw in, or are you cool with where you landed?
I mean, you know, check out anything else that we released this year. We did put out a Streetlight Manifesto cover comp on Bandcamp with about 15 bands on it to benefit PCRF, Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. We were able to raise so far about $1,800 with that. So if that's in perpetuity, so if you buy it, every time we do our counting every 6 months, whatever we make on that, just all of it, 100% goes to charity. And some of our other comps as well, if you want to check those out. And then I want to shout myself out for a second. I put out an LP in October with Nelson, my friend Nelson, who records as Leave Nelson Be. We recorded 2 albums already. This was the second one under Nelson Comes to Visit. We finally have officially made that our band. We literally just finally reorganized everything. We call ourselves Glitter Punk. The next album has 8 songs deep already. It's a hardcore album. Like, genuinely, there's like a lot of like really heavy shit on there. But the first one's almost an electronic album. The second one's kind of a indie rock emo album. I don't know. Check it out. It's a lot of chiptune and like rock. There's breakdowns. There's lots of weird stuff that you won't hear anywhere else. So check that out too, please.
And if you've been in anywhere in the DIY internet sphere, whatever, once you see this album art, you'll know exactly what this is. Because that's how I felt. I was like, oh, that's the album art I've been seeing like all over for like it feels like years. I just because maybe it's personally me, maybe it's stuck with me because the mother reference and all that. But I think it's cool stuff. So hopefully, yeah, people go check it out. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna play a little game. A really fun game, one that I'm very excited to play. All right, we're back with the game, and this game, this one's going to be fun. This is a tier list of ghosts. We got Lonely Ghost in the house, so we're going to get Lonely Ghost Records Ghost Rankings. We got 12 ghosts here, John. So let's start with the first one, Casper the Friendly Ghost. Our tiers are S, A, B, C, and trash. So where do you put Casper the Friendly Ghost, and what does Casper mean to you?
So, I would feel bad putting a dead child in the trash category, but I'm not a huge fan of Casper. So as a kid, I remember the live action movie came out. It was like, made me depressed as a little kid. That's like the only thing I remember about it. So I got to put him in the trash tier.
Casper into the trash tier. I got to be honest, I've never seen Casper, and I did not know it was a dead child. So that is quite a way to start this. Next up, the next ghost on our ghost rankings, we got what's his name? The Flying Dutchman from SpongeBob SquarePants. I don't know if you know the Flying Dutchman.
I do, yeah.
What are we thinking of him?
I'm gonna give him S tier.
Wow.
He brings in some good episodes of SpongeBob, and honestly, he's a fun character.
All right, Flying Dutchman in S tier. That is so that's a way to start it. We got the Flying Dutchman in S tier, top of the charts, and then we got little old Casper in the trash. Next up, the Headless Horseman. So this is obviously the classic. He's on a horse. He's holding a pumpkin in his hand. Where do you put in the Headless Horseman?
I'm gonna give him B tier because I view like Headless Horseman kind of content as like B tier Halloween content, fun but not like not that scary.
Yeah, that makes sense. Headless Horseman's in the B tier. Next up, this one is a bit of a deep cut, but it's Boo Berry from the cereal Boo Berry. Where are we thinking with Boo Berry?
I'm gonna give him A tier.
All right, you ever had Boo Berry, the cereal?
Yeah. Yeah, not bad. I liked it a lot more when I was younger than now, but yeah.
I was more of a Count Chocula fan, that's just me. Next up, King Boo from Mario. So this would be like, the ghosts, the Boos. Yeah. This is their king. Do you ever have any experience with King Boo?
I have. I love Mario. I actually named one of my old Super Destroyer songs after the Ghost Houses level. So I'm going to give King Boo S tier because of nostalgia.
Wow, King Boo in the S tier. Right now, S tier is looking good. Flying Dutchman and King Boo, both very strong characters. I really like them a lot. C tier is still empty. Next up, we've got the one, let's see, I'm looking at this. I think this is the one real person in this. Ghostface Killer. Where are we putting Ghostface?
Oh, S tier, obviously. Wu-Tang?
Wu-Tang. It's for the children.
I saw Wu-Tang in July. I just saw them in July. Yeah.
Was Ghostface Killer there?
Yeah, it was all the originals.
I was gonna say, if you get a chance to go see them again, you gotta tell Ghostface that you put him in the S tier of the ghost tier list.
Also, Nelson loves them, so he's gonna be happy I did that.
Oh, hell yeah. Again, the S tier is getting stronger by the pick. Next up, we've got Moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter.
Trash. J.K. Rowling is trash. Moaning Myrtle is trash. Transphobes, all it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I haven't really, I don't know too much about Harry Potter lore, so when I was doing my research, I saw this and I was like, oh, I know that character name, but can't say I know too much about them. So, throw them in the trash. I think Casper in the trash is a little harsh, but maybe Moaning Myrtle in the trash, not so harsh. Next up,
put Casper up to C because Moaning Myrtle and Casper are actually not in the same category.
Let's go.
Yeah, and I feel better about that.
If we stick at this pace, Casper might end up in the A tier by the end of this. We got a few more left, just a few more. Sure. Next up, Haunter from Pokemon.
Not one of my favorites. I love Pokemon. I'll give Haunter a B tier.
All right, Haunter is in the B tier, right there with the Headless Horseman. I was also, I had Ghastly and Gengar to pick from as well, but I went with Haunter because he's got the more typical ghost look. I was like, he looks like a ghost. Next up, Space Ghost from the show Space Ghost and also Space Ghost Coast to Coast. You know Space Ghost?
Yes, I know Space. So from Space Ghost Coast to Coast, I never watched the actual Space Ghost cartoon. I'll say A tier.
All right, A tier. And I believe Pavement did the theme song for Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
I love Payment. That's so sick.
Yeah. Next up. Oh, this one is a favorite of mine. Zero the Ghost Dog from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, S tier. I mean, Ghost Dogs, always S tier.
Zero is just one of the probably a top ghost character for sure. Probably a top dog character as well. I mean,
Yeah.
He's got it all. He's got that red nose. He's always smiling. He's floating around. Next up, Slimer.
I'm gonna give Slimer C tier.
I agree with you. That's where I'd put him too. I'm not a big Slimer fan. As a kid, I played on a soccer team, a little rec soccer team. We called ourselves the Slimers because we wore neon green. But Slimer, the Ghostbusters guy, pretty whack in my opinion.
Yeah.
Finally, our last one. Inky, it's actually 4. Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde, the ghosts from Pac-Man. Where are we putting them?
I'm gonna say A tier because I love Pac-Man and it's still too hard for me to do everything I want to. So I'm not gonna open for that.
All right, so let's real quick go back through it. We'll recap. Moanin' Myrtle is in the trash. Casper rescued himself from the trash. Casper is in C tier with Slimer. We got Headless Horseman and Haunter in the B tier. A tier, we got Boo Berry, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and the Pac-Man Ghosts. That's very strong. And the S tier, the Flying Dutchman, King Boo, Ghostface Killer, and Zero, the flying ghost dog thing from Nightmare Before Christmas. This is very strong. I think a lot of the listeners and viewers would agree with it. But if you disagree with it, please let me know. Let me know what is fucked up. Where did John fuck up in this?
Please let me know. Yeah.
John, thank you for coming on the show. This is really fun. Why don't you let the listeners and the viewers know where they can find you, where they can find Lonely Ghost stuff, and how they can keep up with you?
Yeah. You can find our label at lonelyghostrecords.com. Everything that, everything's on there. We also have a Bandcamp page, lonelyghostrecs.bandcamp.com. If you're looking for some of the stuff that I'm putting out, my socials are at Super Destroyed on Twitter and Instagram, and Super Destroyer on Blue Sky. And that will cover all the Nelson Comes to Visit stuff, since Super Destroyer is sort of an all-encompassing sort of all my experimental art and all that kind of stuff goes under it. So you can find us there.
Amazing. And then listeners, viewers, as always, tapeclub.substack.com is the place to go to keep up with what we're doing. We obviously do this podcast. There is a newsletter that comes out every 2 weeks. There's also these quarterly compilation cassettes. This is the one from December. We're almost out of these. So if you sign up, maybe you'll be lucky enough to get one of these. Maybe they'll be gone. But the ones from September, we actually still have copies of. So this you will get if you sign up. The way it works is you get a quarterly shipment of cassettes. I aim to try to put 3 cassettes in there. One would be our quarterly compilation. The other 2 are just loosey random cassettes that hopefully you like. So tapeclub.substack.com is the place to go to keep up with that. John, thank you again for coming on. It was a pleasure. It was a blast. And, we'll have to have you on some other time to really get into the nitty-gritty insights behind labels and how they work.
I'd love to do that. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Listeners and viewers, thank you for listening and viewing, and I will see you next time. Peace. The J-Card podcast is a fully independent production. It is made possible by listeners and viewers just like you. So if you want to support us, tapeclub.substack.com is the place to go.